Thanks for staying with us on the conversation now as Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari prepares to hand over power to President-elect Bola Tinubu on May 29, 2023. His special assistant on digital communications, Bashir Ahmad, has highlighted some of the policies and projects that Buhari will be remembered for. Ahmad's tweet made on Thursday highlights the achievements that the outgoing president has made during his tenure. Ahmad lists Buhari's key policy accomplishments, which include legislative reforms, executive orders, and infrastructure development in the areas of rail, roads, air, and seaports, power, housing, and water resources. He also highlights Buhari's work in promoting the ease of doing business, driving the digital economy, and creating a digital identity system.
Moreover, Ahmed mentions Buhari's contributions in the areas of oil and gas reform, solid minerals, agricultural revolution, social intervention, social investment and poverty alleviation, education and health, as well as fiscal, trade, monetary and investment reforms, amongst others. This tweet comes in the midst of a flurry of petitions being raised against the February 25th presidential election that supposedly produced the All Progress candidate Bola Tinubu as winner and president-elect. The presidential election petition courts has adjourned to May the 17th and 18th, respectively, the continuation of the pre-trial hearing of the petition by the Labour Party and the People's Democratic Party against the President-elect Bola Tinubu of the All Progressive Congress. Now, joining us this evening to discuss the Buhari administration scorecard in the last 8 years, I have Mr. Biodun Sowunmi, a public affairs analyst, joins us from Nigeria's commercial capital, Lagos. We also have Olugbenga Akande, a policy pundit, joins us from Abeokuta in Ogun State, and Great Emo, public affairs analyst, joins us from the nation's capital, Abuja. A warm welcome to you, gentlemen, and thanks for joining us on the conversation.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me on the show.
Now, I'd like to start with you, Biodun. The primary responsibility of any government is to protect lives and property of the people, as stipulated in the Nigerian constitution. How would you say the Buhari administration has fared when it comes to securing the nation? Are things better off or worse off than he met them? Hello, Biodun, that question is directed to you.
Okay. Oh, okay. Sorry. On whether Buhari has left the country better than he met it?
When it comes to security, securing lives and property, because,
okay.
Yes.
Yes. The fact of the matter is the country was in a very terrible shape when Buhari came into power. I remember there were villages and local governments under full occupation to the point that the Boko Haram flags were being, flown in different parts of the country. At a point in time, we had the reports of over 15 local governments were fully under occupation, local administration being done by Boko Haram, and there was a terrible situation in which even the state administration, particularly in Borno State, almost got paralyzed. And we had the Air Force base bombed with a jet fighter badly damaged. So there was so low confidence in the Nigerian military when the Buhari regime came in. Don't forget the Americans came in at a point in time to help, but they had to pull out due to weaknesses of our own military institutions. Since Buhari had taken over, what has changed? Some things have changed, but we have not gotten it right completely. For instance, we no longer have Boko Haram, occupying, local governments and flying their flags as they used to do in the past. So we have a situation where their capacity has been degraded, but not wiped out. As we all know, the nature of insurgency, it mutates. It will mutate from one thing to the other. It has now mutated because Boko Haram used to be funded, with proceeds of bank robbery. And it has now mutated to the point that we now call it, what do they call? They call them bandits, to the point of kidnapping, which they now see to be more lucrative, to fund their activities. So it has now mutated, created a different security problem for the country. We have seen situations where Kaduna State particularly, where we have most of our military installations, the headquarters of those places, being terrorized, by these bandits with little or no answer, from the authorities. But notwithstanding that, the fact of the matter is the security situation has not improved to the point of commendation, but they have been able to degrade the capacity of Boko Haram, and we saw a new situation, acquisition of new weapons to Kano, and the collaboration, with neighboring countries have been deepened. So those are the positive side of it, but we have not been able to solve. Buhari has not been able to solve the security problem.
All right, solving security holistically is still questionable. Quite a bit of progress, but not enough progress. Now, great for you. As security, I mean, one of the issues is the matter of economy. We've had situations with the debt restructuring. We also have situations of inflation going on in Nigeria. Since Buhari's administration in 2015, we saw from the media aid there listing so many things that President Muhammadu Buhari has done so far for the country. So for you, what has been some of the key policy accomplishments for Buhari, especially in terms of the economy?
Is that for me still?
Oh, great.
Yeah. So outside the economy...
No, sorry.
The question is directed to Grace, other panelist. Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Please go on.
Okay. For me, I would say that it appeared that towards the twilight of this administration that some of the policy directions of Mr. President started making sense. For example, about 3 weeks ago, the National Assembly passed a law that now empowers state government to build rails and gave other residual powers to state government, which I think in the long run will enhance the economic performance. But on the overall, considering that this government has been running by ways and means, I tell you, that shows that, and even the inflationary rate goes to show that we have not achieved much. If you consider when Mr. President took over in 2015, for example, food inflation, if using food inflation metrics, you can see that as of that time, a bag of rice was between 8,000 and 10,000. Today, we're talking about 50,000. We can do the mathematics. That is literally over 500% inflationary rate. And I also want to say that if you look at the earning power of Nigerians, it has drastically reduced. And I can be sincere with you without being critical, that Mr. President performed woefully in terms of the economy. And beyond that, we have also borrowed beyond measure, and now we are paying debt with almost 98% of our annual budget. I don't think we have had it this bad before in the country. Aside the ways and means, we are borrowing to service debt, and we were still budgeting over 70% of our annual budget. We are still making provision for only civil servants. Less than 1 million citizens out of 200 and something million Nigerians are still being serviced by 70% of our annual budget. Looking at those things, we really did not have much funds to, plow into the economy. And also part of what I want to challenge is that the social investment program of Mr. President was absolute mismatch. I remember before this program was, before its implementation, when it was being muted, I was on TVC, and I appeared on the same platform with Akande, who is the PA to the Vice President, and I challenged the models as of that time that you couldn't be employing 500 billion in terms of cash, conditional cash transfer, especially when you have young people, able-bodied young people out of school who have no job. It was a mismatch for a growing economy like ours. What should have been done was to invest that money into productive venture, whereby these young people get engaged in productivity, and they were able to reproduce the investment. they are able to earn value and also support their families instead of just transferring cash, which created inflation. And if you are, I'm not a professional economist, but my little knowledge of economy shows that such mismatch of policy has led us here. We have a lot of volume of cash in the system where there are no products, and you have this volume of cash, much volume of cash, chasing less quantity of goods, and that is recipe for inflation. It's a common elementary economics for anybody to understand. And I'm surprised that the age of Mr. President can actually be praising him for this, maybe for some other things. But as far as the economy is concerned, I can say Mr. Buhari performed less and less than expected, and that is unfortunate.
Thank you very much, great Emo. Now I'd like to bring Gbenga into the conversation. Gbenga, we've heard the scorecard from the two panelists, and Mr. Biodun said he's done. I mean, Boko Haram's capacity has been degraded, but there's still more to be expected. And when it comes to terms of the economy, it's performed woefully. That's Mr. Great Emo's submission. Now, looking into the future, a new administration is on the horizon, and we shouldn't dwell too much in the past. Nigerians are hoping with much expectations that this new administration will bring a better lease of life for them. What should the incoming government prioritize? What areas should they prioritize? And a situation where they're inheriting, record debt, where you're, servicing debt with 97% of your income. It's not a very pretty thing to come into. So what are your expectations for the new administration, and what areas should they prioritize, Gbenga?
Thank you very much. You will recall that President Buhari was very popular during the build of 2017 election because of the challenges the country is facing. So considering some of the expectations that people wanted for this present government, we cannot actually say that this government has performed to meet the expectations of Nigeria. However, it is very expedient for the next government to act speedily on some areas, especially in the area of security and economy, because it is very obvious that the country's security is so bad, and that has translated into some of the economic woes that we are facing in the country today. Because if the country is not safe, we don't expect the economy to thrive. So the incoming government, which is the government of Bashir Ahmad, is expected to take drastic measures, basically to revamp the economy and also reshape the security architecture of the country. The security is so bad, and that is what everybody must have said, because although we cannot say that the present government has done nothing, but the truth is that they have not performed to meet the expectations of Nigerians. And that is why the incoming administration has a lot of work. In the area of economy, the economy is in shambles. We all see what is happening, Naira against the dollar. The cost of living, the standard of living in the country is so bad. So the incoming administration, we have to look for a way to open the country for economic prosperity by reforming some of the economic policies of government of the Muhammadu Buhari that's going. And also in the area of insecurity, the government must also be proactive. I mean, the incoming government of Bashir Bola Tinubu must be proactive in dealing with the security problem of the country. Boko Haram was actually wrapped up under the but now that's metamorphosed into another thing. We now see our military base being attacked, police stations being attacked.
Yes. I mean, Gbenga, from what you're saying, lots of things still need to be done, especially when it comes to insecurity in the country. I'm going to bring the last question now to Biodun. Now, we're looking at situations here where we're waiting for an incoming government, and we're seeing this pre-trial election tribunals being postponed to 17th and 18th of May. How do you see the political atmosphere at the moment while we wait for May 29 inauguration and the opposition that is coming against it? Biodun, can you hear me? All right, great.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, did you
Yes.
get the question?
Yes, can you repeat it? I didn't get the question.
Okay, I'm looking at the political situation or political atmosphere right now. While we're waiting for the incoming government, May 29 is on the horizon, and there are a lot of oppositions against this transition or this inauguration. How have you seen the pre-hearing proceedings and the political climate going on in Nigeria presently?
Yeah, the preparation for the transition is already taking place, with programs built to start on the 18th, I think, of May, to usher in a new administration. Buhari has done his best and is on his way out. So we're going to have a new president, which we have to deal with in Bola Ahmed. And of course, in my view, amidst the concerns expressed by many Nigerians, it's quite very clear that the new administration will have to take the issue of security, uniting the country, more seriously. The economy is also a major plank because we have so much. We have a huge debt overhang, suffocating the economy. Whether the government is now going to have to reschedule some of the debts and look at how to generate more income, more revenue, with a view to be able to reduce the pressure on financing. That's a major issue which they have to deal with. There is no way we can deal with the security issue without addressing, some of the demands of restructuring, particularly of state police. That has to happen as soon as possible, because without that, we may not be able to eventually solve all the problems.
Okay. Thank you very much, gentlemen. I'm afraid we've run out of time. I'd like to say a big thank you to you, Biodun Sowunmi, Olugbenga, Akande, and great Emo for being a part of this conversation. Thank you for your insights and contribution.
Thank you. This is where we'll draw the curtains for today's edition of The Conversation. I am Rita Omodia. Do see you again till next week.
And I'm Gbenga, Aborowa. Thanks for joining the program. See you next week. Bye-bye.